east of Palmdale, California, in the Antelope Valley of California, and along the Pearl Blossom Trail, or Pearl Blossom Highway, is the remains of a socialist dream of a man named Job Harrison, or Harriman, I believe, named Harriman. He was a socialist dreamer. Oddly enough, we are in a BMW, a product of a sometimes socialist and more socialist country than others. We are approaching the once grounds of the Llano Del Rio Collective, a commune that was going to house thousands and thousands of good socialist communists. There's not much left, but we'll take a very brief look. Now, you can just imagine what it was like over 100 years ago, approximately 1910, 1911, I believe, is when this was inspired, or the dream came alive of Mr. Harriman. I think I called him Job earlier. It was probably Job, J-O-B. Right along this highway, the highway would have been present, and this would probably be the very first building that you would come to. Obviously it's overgrown quite a bit, and there is nothing else existing except the stone and the masonry, the concrete. So this was probably, just judging by what I can see here now, this would have been like the Great Hall entrance. Probably a large patio. I cannot tell if this had been finished at any time, but we've got caps, concrete caps on each one of these pillars. The stone is just beautiful rock, obviously, natural stone that has been excavated or transported here. This does not look like it is native to this region, and we've got some vandals that have come along and removed a bit here, a spot there, possibly trying to demo the entire lot. The stone is even emplaced in the center, so this is old world workmanship. This is not what we would see in the late 20th and early 21st century, where there would just be some filler. This entire pillar, and all of these pillars, are most likely constructed of actual stone, which is interesting. Very Romanesque of you, Mr. Harriman. Even though I don't think the Romans would appreciate the whole socialist spin. So I can only imagine, we can only imagine, that this would be the Great Hall entrance, meant to impress the masses of communist followers. We've got a very, don't know why this has been, this is actually chipped away as if it's just a surface piece. Probably from some more vandalism. We have what may very well be. I don't know what fruit this is. Interesting. Don't see where it necessarily came from. Actually, it may have come from these plants based upon these leaves. So that's kind of interesting. So once we've entered the initial patio of what I imagine would have been the Great Hall. You could probably sit out here and chat and have a glass of wine or a cigar or a cigarette, which was probably pretty common at the time, and move in from, again, we've got these pieces here. It looks like they had a foundation of concrete with it does not look like tiles. It looks like maybe an additional cap of concrete was poured on top to create the image of tiles. But once we've approached the patio or the front deck, we'd probably enter the Great Hall. And the Great Hall has two chimneys, two fireplaces. So we'd probably walk in on, based upon this area of a foundation, I may be using the wrong technical word, but it's the presence of a foundation. This was probably a wooden structure on top. The floors were probably wood. Would have made for a very impressive room. So we've got two chimneys, one on the west side, one on the east side, east versus west. Kind of brings us back to socialist communism versus Western politics. And a nice red brick interior of the fireplace. Again, all made of stone. You can see the interior is made of all solid stone. There is no filler here. Even going up and into, let's see if we can get this, going up and into the chimney. Let's see, oh, there we go. You can see the top of the chimney, and all of that looks very much solidly built, which is probably why it stood the test of time of over 100 years. Some of these boulders appear to be granite. Some of these appear to be other types of stone. Again, harvested from where is very interesting. I like the sections that stick out, kind of like little pieces of mantle. Let's go to the west side chimney, fireplace chimney. I don't know if that's even correct for what it is now. Very robust red brick liner on the inside. We have some pipe that may very well be for gas or perhaps for support. I don't know if they were using gas fireplaces in the early 1900s or not. Again, take a look. Yeah, there you go. There's the cap, interior cap of the fireplace, and all built of stone. I really enjoy and appreciate the work done here. Wonder perhaps a place for candles or perhaps for statues honoring the grand accomplishments of complete socialism. So this appears to have the building appears, based upon the foundation, would have run another 30 to 40 feet beyond the fireplaces. This appears to have been a basement, concrete lined, with a nice, appropriate angle to the walls. Appears to be the stairs leading down into the cellar. This was probably going to be the wine cellar for the great socialist commune, so that the people could come and drive their socialist vehicles, socialist-made vehicles, to the socialist lounge or Great Hall and imbibe together, all equally, of course. Quite a number of loose stones are down in here, most likely from some of these other structures. At the rear, there appear to be some doorways, possibly large doorway sections, double doors. I doubt that they would have installed rollers, especially with this these cap pieces that appear to resemble tiles. Why some of these have degraded, I'm not sure. Could have been from vandalism or just sheer wear and tear of the desert environment. Yeah, the desert. There we go. We have a raised section here. Be interesting to have access to any original plans that might still exist. Some old pottery, well, not pottery, looks like a pan and cans. Doubt that that's actually 100 years old. And again, we've got an interesting exterior wall for the basement. That may have been part of a window. At the time frame, I believe that they may have built basements with windows that were at almost ground level, possibly for ventilation. A lot of debris here. Obviously not from the early 1900s, possibly some type of radio receiver. A large number of cans, large number of old cans using the stylized triangular beverage opener. And of course we've got a large number of spray cans as well, or the remnants thereof. On the north side of what I'm going to call the Grand Hall, there continues to be like a large patio area, or possibly a room, although based upon the evidence of the foundation base, this was probably open air. And this is interesting. This appears to be an abandoned anthill, or an abandoned ant colony. Interestingly enough, prime example of true socialist colonization, or true socialist community. Ants, even they appear to have abandoned this property, although their structure seems to be a little more shall we say, environmentally friendly. And this patio appears to continue to the north. There's another structure, or evidence of a structure here. And we've got evidence of another structure foundation here. Perhaps the kitchen area for all of the occupants of the Grand Hall. We need to keep the people separated. There's some, that's interesting that it looks like nails were used as some type of additional foundational piece, but they were mortised in with the concrete. Well, obviously this was a room, because here we have another stairway leading down with more foundation. I'm trying to keep my ugly shadow out of some of these shots, but yes, we've got the same natural rock used and mortised in with very, very, sturdy sturdy material to hold it all together. And it's also interesting that once again the concrete, the foundational concrete of the steps, seems to have like a cap piece that was added on top of it as a smooth section. And I don't know if that was common practice in the early 1900s or perhaps an innovation, or why it would have been done that way. Maybe a different type of actually it was. This concrete here has rocks, and I'm trying to remember the term that's used by people that work with concrete, but basically there's rocks and other large pieces of debris mixed in with the concrete as a filler, and of course this does not have it for the smooth surface, so that's the reason for that surface texture treatment. So looking from here, we can come around, and this is an interesting square-shaped structure. I wonder if this would have been a monument, perhaps, to Job and his followers. Or perhaps a place for great socialists to speak from. It's absolutely beautiful workmanship. And here again we've got a mixture of concrete used as the foundation, and then intermixed with stones added to the concrete. And this appears to be capped again with smooth concrete used as a tile-like appearance or structure. This was possibly more recent than the original. Actually, no. Based upon some of the concrete here and concrete there, it appears to be possibly original. Although we've got a pipe that's under the ground there. Obviously, that is not of the era of the early 1900s. So this is most likely a more recent addition, although we've got a large number of cans from what have amounted to probably their garbage pit, just based upon the style of opening the cans and the extensive rust and corrosion. Now this pipe, interesting, that seems to be definitely buried. And I was saying that this is more of a plastic material, but I am wrong. This appears to be clay. Some type of a clay combination with something that has a black exterior. So that may have been from the proper era. Here's a small piece. So we can take a look at it. And yes, feels like it's ceramic. Definitely sounds like ceramic. And it's a layered ceramic. It's got a reddish brown center, almost like a San Mai blade, with a black interior for the pipe and a black exterior for the pipe. Very interesting material. Be curious about this. And again, here we have another similar pipe to this. This appears to possibly have been, just judging by what is present here, this seems to have been a Y-shaped, perhaps an intersection of the pipe itself. Now I'm absolutely fascinated by what appears to be an aqueduct, or perhaps a small canal that runs. I wasn't here, of course, but they used the same type of stone that is used on the Grand Hall, the Grand Lodge, whatever you want to call it, and it's approximately 2 feet wide, about 24, perhaps 30 inches wide at what appears to be the interior. And it's not very wide itself. It's only about maybe 9 inches wide, maybe 10 at the most. But this structure runs to the south beyond the Pearl Blossom Highway. I don't know how far. It may go all the way to the hills there, which possibly would have been an attempt to channel water from those mountains and to bring them down to the People's Collective. Now this structure, as I said, runs here, goes underneath the People's Car. I know that that's not the right brand, but I couldn't help but say it. And then continues to the north. And out of view, out of sight here because of our shrubberies, our bushes. I believe that these are probably what was imported from Russia in the late 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. After the need to switch to another camera, because I was a little too overly interested in the structures there, and we can see what I believe is the west side, the west end or west side chimney. Yeah, there's the east side chimney on the other side of those bushes. We've made it to these structures here, and they're a little more intact. Perhaps these had been completed. Now, this was not visible from the view over there, but this is another cylindrical shaped concrete and rock structure that I'm going to make a huge guess that this is a water cistern, probably for clear water, for clean water. There's a pipe here on the east side of this cylinder. There's a pipe, a vertical pipe there. This pipe does come through all the way to the interior, and there is a bit of a bit of a slope from the base. So a bit of logical deduction would indicate that this was probably the water cistern, and perhaps the other one was most likely wastewater since it was below ground. Now, the edges of this is capped, which is interesting. I don't see any evidence of anything being built upon the cap, the concrete cap that runs the perimeter of this stone wall. So, did they not anticipate much water use? Curious. And then here we have another horizontal pipe right there that may be an inlet, probably an inlet. And of course this is a huge question as well. Obviously filled with stones, because when people find a hole or a pipe, you just have to throw stones into it, right? You just have to try and fill it up. Why let it exist on its own? So, and again, I don't see any evidence of any additional structure on top of this cylindrical piece. Absolute plethora of these cans with the triangular punch holes from beverage openers. Just an absolute plethora of them. A lot of spray painters have been here. And here it looks like someone tried to use the wrong size. So, from this point, let's see if we can find what I believe may have been a small aqueduct. The slope of the terrain appears to be, and this is just, well, it's almost impossible not to just see it. It's higher ground towards the Grand Lodge or the Grand Hall, and it slopes towards this point where we are now, and then it definitely appears to continue sloping down to the north. So when we were talking about the aqueduct, and okay, it may be the wrong term, sue me, I'm not seeing any evidence of it here. So it appears that there's some evidence of that structure to the south. We're walking in a south direction. Oh, more evidence of socialism in the natural order, and, well, I'm sure it worked at one time because they built a phenomenal structure there. We have some of these stones that are obviously imported. To me, they're obviously imported. They don't appear to be natural or native to this area. and they're kind of interspersed throughout here. But at this point here, again, keeping in mind where we were earlier is just about yonder, if you can pick that up. Right about yonder. Equal to where those chimneys are at. So we've got this parallel structure of stones. Here it looks like someone dug down into it. So a mortar has been used. Apologize for the ugly shadow. A mortar has been used, you know, possibly of natural materials because of the color, and that's just all I'm basing it on. But we've got a mortar that was used to hold the stones together, and it even appears that it may have lined the interior of this at one point. You can see here where it's smoothed over and then some stones sticking out. Smoothed over more here and even more uniformly there. I'm going to avoid these guys because I think that that's where I picked up a couple of thorns. Or maybe in those guys, or it may have been those guys, or it may have been those guys, or those guys, or those guys, or those guys. Who knows out here? In the desert, everything is either going to stick you, bite you, or prick you. So, and there again, we've got that evidence of like a liner almost. The parallel part continues to about here, where it appears to be distributed more. Dispersed, if you will. And there's a bit of evidence of some parallel direction here. But then we've got more dispersed rock. And I cannot tell if this is from demolition of what may have been over that area, or if this was intended as part of the structure. Perhaps this was the pile of stones being used to construct that that aqueduct, or that channel, that canal, that ditch. I'm going to try and move this one again. We try to not disturb anything that was, you know, already present at the time of any visit. But you know, this stone here is obviously loose. The stone, gorgeous stone. These stones, again, I'm just going to check. Okay, it comes definitely loose. So these stones, you know, appear to have, again, possibly this may have been a staging point for the rock that was being used for construction, at least in this general area. And of course, I have no idea what these bushes are. I don't think that these are the, you know, if anybody can chime in and let me know what these are, I'd be really happy to know, because they don't look like what ends up being tumbleweeds, and that's what I think I called it earlier. So, coming back to this dirt road, which was probably not present at the time of construction, you know, we still have these stones here. Again, I'm going to check. The stone came loose very easily. I'll leave it in place. Again, this looks like it may have been a structure, but this stone is very loose, and we'll leave it in place as well. So, I thought we had some activity there. The aqueduct seems to have come to an end in this general area, and perhaps even in this general area, because we have stones that seem to be more haphazardly strewn, but in somewhat of a parallel direction. Let me check this here. This looks like these stones here are a little more, I'm not going to be able to lift that with my toe. So, if we run a general tangent line from here, bring it down straight, and then continue to the south, I don't see any evidence whatsoever of any type of a channel, a constructed channel, or, I'm just panning side to side, or any type of an aqueduct or any similar type structure. With that said, it may have been the intention, again, to run H2O from, here we are still along the general parallel line, from that mountain range there into the Antelope Valley, which is where we're at, and then south along a natural flow, which would be natural. Any other civilization that's built an aqueduct has used natural terrain for natural flow. And then perhaps to bring it to this cylindrical structure, which is probably a water cistern. And, you know, as evidenced by even this, the gentle drop there towards that pipe. And of course, this could have been a feeder pipe, and this could have been a feeder pipe maybe trying to create an artesian type of an effect, or, you know, perhaps to help clear the water of silt or any other material. Don't know what kind of filtration system they would have had in the early 1910s, as some people refer to it. Here we have some more of this stone. This is smaller stone than what was used in construction of necessarily the Grand Lodge or the Grand Hall. Obviously, they used the choicest stones for that, for impression, or to impress. There's another, what appears, oh, this would be the exterior foundation and wall of whatever this structure would have been. Got evidence of animals, dogs, coyotes, possibly. Horses, I see some horse hoof prints. And obviously humans, a lot of human evidence. So now these walls appear to have windows at regular intervals along this eastern wall. There, 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 there. Obviously this has been demolished quite a bit. Here, 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 here. Perhaps a doorway or a walkway or a crawl space, crawlway. And then again on this side we have regular intervals for what was most likely windows. They've used larger stones for the walls, and this was probably incredibly impressive in its time if this building had ever been finished and completed. Again, we've got layered stone, we've got granite, just a wide variety of stones used on this, which of course would have possibly been in keeping with the socialist and communist theme of everyone coming together, everyone from different walks of life, different social origins, different ethnicities, all coming together to work as one. So this may have been perhaps a poetic nod to the philosophy. We've got a lower section here. This appears to be all a natural channel, just eyeballing it quickly. Does not appear to be man-made. I don't see any evidence of a roof structure, or what may have at one time been a roof structure, which leads me to believe that this may have never been completed. Here we've got, oh, well, okay, I just pulled this out. I didn't intend to, but this piece just, you know, came loose as I was wanting to check it for depth. Oh, there's another one. Here I am. I'm not going to pull this out, but this is loose. Obviously, over time, this will, you know, come crumbling down, so to speak. This will you know, subject itself or be the subject of weather and natural forces, including gravity, obviously. So, nice straight walls, just, you know, here we are eyeballing this, and eyeballing this one. Nice straight walls. See that line there? See that other very well done line here? Here, here, here. You see it in the glare, on my end at least. Well, nothing like somebody being so important that they just can't resist letting you know that they were here. Of course, I guess that's what I'm doing in a way, but at least I'm not damaging the structure that, again, is over 100 years old. If the very brief research I was able to conduct is accurate. 100-year-old structure, or the remnants thereof. Here we've got some remnants of what I can only imagine is target practice. So polite and kind of someone to do that with what appears to be some type of a residential property there to the west, and some type of a commercial property, again to the west, well within a mile. So, you know, look, if you're going to be a knucklehead, at least try to be somewhat courteous about it, and not shoot at people or their dwellings, their belongings, their houses, their place of business, or place of whatever they want to do. We have some more. Wow, that's a pretty extensive paint job. Yeah, probably went through about 3 cans of paint for this. Okay, and then this wall continues. Dark black granite, interesting. And as much as I hate to say it, I see no more structures here, but it appears to be another structure to the north, another 75 yards or so to the north. So we'll take a look there. I see nothing of clear evidence to the west from this point. We are due north of the Blossom Trail Highway. I think it's called Plum Blossom Trail, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't see any other man-made structures except perhaps directly to the north here. Hope I haven't been juggling up my compass directions. It's very possible, you know, here in the heat of the desert and all. We have looks like a burgeoning Joshua tree trying to crop up. Definitely use some more here. And you know what? Interesting. I don't see any others in the general area. So perhaps not a Joshua tree, perhaps maybe one that was planted there by someone. A good intentioned person transposing the flora into its non-native habitat. Either that or maybe some seedlings were able to be deposited there. Whatever the case, it's there. And like so much in the desert, if it's there, it's going to struggle to stay. This structure is interesting. It looks like it is a partially subterranean structure. There are several segments. There are several, I don't know what else to call it, segments. There does not appear to be any ground level constructed pass-throughs. That appears to be all that, those openings appear to be from demolition. Oh, here we have a jackrabbit. Sorry. Well, he's got to learn to jump and run anyhow. So it appears to be from vandalism or just, you know, possibly degradation from the environment falling in. These also appear to be lined with smooth, very smooth concrete surface, at least on this end. This section, frankly, does not appear to have any of this surface, and nowhere in here does it appear to have that. I'm going to do the tightrope act here. So, you know, again, I'm just very curious about this. I can't help it. I'm very, very curious about these types of structures and these types of social projects. Social, not socialism project, just in general, social, cultural, societal projects. This one appears to have been maybe finished. Maybe these were still in a state of construction at the time that construction ceased or ended, or occupancy ended. Again, I'm just a little perplexed by this and very, very interested. And I apologize for the shaky camera, but walking around on uneven terrain, looking around for snakes and other critters, and avoiding the spikes of whatever got me earlier, makes you a little more focused on where you're stepping. Now these sections appear to be a total of 1, 2, 3, and 4, whereas this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the way that these were built, it appears that this section was constructed, just looking at the segments here and the way it's put together, this section appears to have been constructed similar to this. However, it appears that at a later time, this north and south running divider was added. There is no clear evidence of the liner here that I can see right now, and I just walked here, so bear with me. Although maybe perhaps here, they may have started with the liner there. And of course, natural erosion would have worn that away and made it a little on the rough side. We'll step up here and just panning around to the west of the southernmost area of this grand experiment. I don't see anything else. Maybe something will come up on video, but I don't see, and I'm raising this up a bit to get a better angle of view. But this does appear to be the southernmost section of the project, or at least that what was either started or you know, perhaps even finished. You know, we just won't know until some research is completed. The fact that the people that were building this are most likely all gone. You know, they would have been at least young adults, unless Job was using some of his other socialist leaders' concepts and enslaving people. They would have all most likely been young adults, most likely, you know, very idealistic, with good intentions. So they're all gone at this point. They would have been well over 120 to 130 years of age at this point. And all I can say is in the early 1900s, to come here and to try to establish a commune, a community of like-minded individuals, appears that they intended to have it be self-sustaining. Again, proximity to these mountains, along with the terrain, gradually coming down to this elevation where we are now, and I don't know what that is. You know, large kudos to them for making that attempt. I can only imagine that there was some level of knowing human beings to be what they are, and especially a lot of leaders, not all of them, but a lot of leaders, to be what they are by nature. They most likely took advantage of the people that did the work and did the investment, and that's probably why this is closed. Now, on another note, I noticed the young budding Joshua tree there. There appears to be a small one here at the general north. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get that in play. Here we go. To the northeast, there's a Joshua tree there. Appears to be another one in this area, and even a larger one near the base of that electrical tower, that power tower. So perhaps Joshua trees are a little more native to this area than I initially thought. So I'm going to walk back to the vehicle. If anyone has any, you know, knowledge or information about the not Del Toro, it's Yadel, well, the Yamadel, whatever. Please let me know. I'd be very interested. I'll attempt to do some research once I get back on the ground and in area and can decompress. Just, you know, as kind of pontificating, and I hate pontificators, but I must behave myself. Here we have a board that appears to be perhaps a hinged structure, or maybe a window frame based upon these metal pieces. And it's certainly, based upon the weathering, certainly appears like it may have been an original part of one of the structures here. Wow, look at that. I didn't pick up any thorns. Amazing. I've been surprised myself. So, wow, a salute to human innovation, human dreams and desires. These mountains must be gorgeous if and when they ever get a dusting of snow on them, and I'm sure they do from time to time. And of course, looking to the north here, yeah, looking to the north, you know, in its time, just spectacular, and perhaps when it's in bloom. And again, these guys look like they're either in bloom, well, okay, that's not. These little cotton ball shaped blossoms. I'm wondering if those will turn into something even more beautiful than they are now. A lot of metallic discards out here, probably from the original occupants and a few visitors afterwards. So, time to get back on the highway, so to speak. I may just stand a bit corrected regarding the abandonment of the socialist utopia. The ants from one of the anthills appear to have been re-energized. And again, this is at the Llano Del Rio complex, the remainder of the complex, that is. The building structure that we looked at earlier is over there. This is, I believe, again, a little bit of additional research has revealed that this was in fact the water cistern, which, you know, as evidenced by some of the other points that we've looked at previously. And it is a spot where people like to come and erect rock structures, possibly meditate or what have you. The community in its heyday, according to some additional research, had up to 1,000 residents. Some of them living in, well, this one's not occupied, or at least not active. Some of the residents residing in tent cabins, not all necessarily in the building structures, the stone building structures. Here we have another example of socialist communist utopia. They seem to be endeavoring to persevere. And the community was really spread across this area here. Of course, the highway wasn't there. These more modern buildings were not present. And at its height, again, it was, I understand, about 1,000 residents or occupants. Here we have another socialist utopia in full swing. Everybody working together quite well. I was mistaken on my estimate of the original construction or start of the community. Apparently it was approximately 1914. I believe I estimated about 1910 or 1911, and that was wrong. Apparently that was when Job decided to leave the greater Los Angeles area. I wanted to try to find and track the structure that appeared to me to be something of a canal, and just lost a bit of sight of it. Here we go. Again, here we've got these parallel rows of stones that come all the way to about here and then dissipate. And the stones don't appear, well, they do appear to have a rough parallel there. We also have some of the, what was possibly portions of pipe or concrete that was poured. Nice little example of it. So I'm going to track this up just a bit. I didn't have the opportunity last time, but as you can see, These stones are parallel. We are going to attempt to do some more research. I think this is where we looked at it before, with the evidence of some lining, some concrete lining. Really like to do the research to try to determine what this was. I can only imagine with the grade going from high to low that it was for water. Another side bit of information is that apparently they had a dairy, a fully operational dairy, a flour mill. I believe there was even a sawmill of some sort here to assist with the construction. We have some very well patterned stones here on this line. And again, much more evidence of the concrete or mortar lining. That stone there was originally in that mortar. You can see the mortar there. A few samples here and there. And actually this gives some evidence that maybe this was a bit higher. These pieces of stone here are raised a bit higher than the ground level, just a bit, by just a few inches. Again, just following this along, it was evidence of a prior pit and some concrete here. Unless there's a record of specific construction purpose, the reason may go unknown. And bottle cap. I can't make out from what. And more evidence of cans. Tin and metallic cans. Interesting embossment on that can there. Can lid. Or can top. Now, I believe that we did look at this before. Yes. And this may have been some other form of a cistern, or maybe a rudimentary. I don't think they would have used it for sewage. It wouldn't seem to allow. Well, maybe it was. It's hard to tell what the bottom is of this. Well, looks like there's a jackrabbit that jumped the wrong way. Actually, looks like there's a couple of jackrabbits that jumped the wrong way. Were probably caught here and simply starved to death. Imagine that if a coyote ended up in there, that it would have remained as well. And come to think of it, that's a good 7 to 8 feet in depth. So it would not be beneficial for a human being to walk along and to stumble into this in the nighttime. You'd probably be able to grab the pipe there and possibly swing yourself up. But other than that, these are quite smooth, finished cement or concrete walls. And other than maybe trying to build a stone ladder from debris, good luck if you ended up down in there. The structure that I think is a canal, or aqueduct, I think we called it that too, just continues on. So again, it's consistent and continues to flow this direction. So a few small details of the tin can, quite possibly of original original occupancy. Interesting. There's a cable here, a buried cable. There we go. Sorry about that. And where it goes is just about anybody's guess. And, well, there was evidence of a wall here, so it may have had something to do with holding some other part of a structure, or maybe for erecting part of the structure. So, as of approximately 1917, 1918, 1919, I believe, if memory serves correctly, that most of the residents of the commune had departed, and in part because of a lack of funding. I believe I read something that there may have, in addition to possible potential fraud or potential mismanagement of funds. Don't want to besmirch anybody needlessly or wrongly, but there may have also been a lack of water. There was a reference to an earthquake having caused damage to the water source of the community, and that, of course, would be further south into the mountains there, to the south of Antelope Valley. So that may have also led to one of the reasons for the decline of the population. There was also a reference to possible theft of water or water rights by local ranchers from the community. So without additional research at this time, the exact reasons for the decline of the community are specifically unknown and may be lost to time, because again, this is well over 100 years ago. So I wanted to revisit this and address the aqueduct, and also I was curious if we would have had a resurgence of any population, and it looks like these guys are doing well at Llano Del Rio. A few little artifacts here and there. And thank you. As to my question earlier about what these little guys are, and I couldn't help but notice that as I drove back to the Pearl Blossom Highway, that these must in fact be the pearl blossoms. Okay, so talking about knuckleheaded logic, right? The yellow are just leaves that seem to be yellowing. Perhaps this is the end of the blossoming season for the pearl blossom area. But so I think I've got the answer. These be pearl blossoms, and they are quite beautiful in and of their own right. And it took me just getting on the highway and clearing my head a bit to realize that. So the pearl blossoms of the Pearl Blossom Highway. Beautiful.